On the 28th of March 2019, Ole Gunnar Solskjær was appointed full-time manager of Manchester United. It's been 2 years since that date. However, the fan base are divided. Has Manchester United improved under Ole? Or are they going downhill? In this video, we do a deep statistical analysis of Manchester United. Have a look at their performance, compare it with yesteryears, and we come to the conclusion of whether Manchester United has improved under Ole Gunnar Solskjær, or if, indeed, they are going backwards. Let's find out. Perhaps the easiest way to compare the two is to look at last season, where we were at this position 29 games in, and compare it to this season. So this season we are in its second, having won 16, drew 9 and lost 4 matches. This stage last season we'd won 12, drew 9 and lost 8 matches. So we've lost 4 more at the same stage in last season. We've scored more goals this season, 56 to 44. However, we've conceded more goals as well. We've conceded 2 more, 32 instead of 30, which puts us currently on a goal difference of plus 24. And at this stage, last season, we were on a goal difference of plus 14. And this amounts to us having 12 more points this season than at the same stage last season. Now, this is not the best comparison, I must admit, because this doesn't take into account the remainder of last season. So a better way to do this is to get the averages for the entirety of last season and compare that with the average for this season to enable direct comparison. So this is what happens when you get the entirety of last season's stats and compare it with the average of this season's stats. So you can see the points per game is 1.74 last season during the course of the 38 matches, points per game as an average. This season we are almost at 2 points per game, so that's a fairly big increase. We have increased our win rate at 55% compared with 47% from before. We are drawing around the same amount of games, 32% last season, just 31% this season, and we are losing less, 14% this season to 21% last season. The goals scored per game, we've increased the amount of goals that we score per game, 1.93 on this season as opposed to 1.74 from last season. And goals conceded per game, we have actually increased since last season. So we've got weaker in that area and we are leaking more goals. So with these stats, you can actually make a projection of what you expect United to finish on if they continue in the same fashion after the entirety of the season, so after all 38 games have been played. And the result is this. Looking at the projections, we would have won 3 more matches, we would have drew exactly the same amount, and we would have lost 3 less matches than last season. We would have scored more goals, 7 to be exact, and we would have conceded more as well. We would have conceded 6 more, so that gives us a final goal difference this season of 31, plus 31, and last season plus 30. So we'd end on around the same goal difference, but the most important thing is the projected points. We would end on 75 this season compared with last season, which is 66 points. So we've improved by 9 points on last season if things continue the way they are. Okay, so to see if Manchester United have progressed or not, we need to look back at yester season and see how the projected stats for this season compares. So I've gone all the way back to 17-18, which was Jose Mourinho's second year in charge, which is his best finish in both position, second, and in his points total as well, which is 81. So in that 17-18 season, we finished on 81 points, goal difference of plus 40, only 28 goals conceded, and we scored 68 goals. Obviously, in the 18-19 season, just after that was kind of 3/4 to a half Jose Mourinho, and the rest Ole Gunnar Solskjær, and we finished on 66 points with a pretty dismal 11 goal difference, having lost 10 games in that season. In Ole's first full season, we got the same points tally at 66. We conceded less goals and scored around the same, which gave us a goal difference of plus 30. We lost less games with 8 as opposed to 10 on the previous season, but we also drew a lot more games as well. 3 more games and won 1 less. So this season, how does it compare with the other seasons? Well, it is the second best. So the 75 points total is only second to the 81 under Jose. In terms of projected position, obviously United is in second position now, and they'll be projected to finish second as well, so the position would be equalled. The goal difference would be 30, so 10 less goal difference on that season. The goals against would be a lot more than the Jose Mourinho's best season, and actually only where it was half Ole, half Jose Mourinho, that is the only worst season in terms of goals against. But the goals for is the best out of all of them. 73 goals scored. Jose Mourinho's best season was 68 goals. We'd have also lost less games compared with all of the previous seasons as well, with 5 games lost. The second best being Jose Mourinho's best season with 7 games. We would have drew a lot more games though, 12 games drawn as opposed to 6 being the best with Jose Mourinho, and we would have won 21 games, which is 4 down on Jose Mourinho's best as well. So looking at this, we have it depends where you want to say that we've made progression. Do you count from Jose Mourinho's best season? Do you count from when Ole took over? Because since Ole has been in charge, yes, there is an improvement in almost every single area other than the goals conceded, which is 42. So other than that, Ole has improved. Upon himself, he's improved, but he hasn't improved from Jose Mourinho's best season. So the answer is, in terms of in the Premier League, have we improved or not? It depends where you want to judge it. Do you judge from Jose Mourinho's best season, or do you judge from when Ole taken over? So now let's look at the cup competition and compare last season to this season. So last season was good without being fantastic. I mean, we got to 3 semi-finals, a good spread. This season we've lost in the quarterfinals, but we're still remaining in 1 cup competition. So we've had a quarterfinals, a semi-finals, and 1 is still ongoing, and we've got a decent chance of at least getting to the semi, maybe the final in that one. But let's have a look at the teams that we've been brought up against. So last season in the FA Cup, we had Wolves, which we won after a replay, Tranmere Rovers, which we won, Derby County, and we beat Norwich after extra time before losing to Chelsea. This season in the FA Cup, we've had won against Liverpool, West Ham, Derby, and then eventually obviously lost to Leicester City. So in terms of the class of opposition, this season we've had much more difficult opposition, and we seem to be scraping through last season. And my suspicion is that if we would have played Liverpool or West Ham last season, we would have gone out in an earlier round. We were very lucky with the draws that we had last season, and we've been very unlucky with the draws that we had this season. So last season, in terms of the EFL Cup, we beat Rochdale, Chelsea and Colchester, and eventually lost to Manchester City. And in this season, we beat Luton, Brighton and Everton, and then again eventually lost to Manchester City in the EFL Cup. So semi-finals in both. The most difficult, we've had one difficult team to beat in each cup run. Chelsea last season and Everton this season. So to be honest, I think that is directly comparable. In the Europa League, we played last season Club Brugge, Lask and Copenhagen, and eventually got knocked out against Sevilla. This season we've had Real Sociedad and Milan, and obviously we're still in the competition, going on to face Granada in the quarterfinals. So last season, if you remember, in the Europa League, we scraped through against Copenhagen, and they could have gone through right at the very end. They missed a very, very good chance, and we've looked decent in the Europa League this season. The Sociedad performance was very good. Milan, it could have gone either way, to be honest, but we managed to scrape through with our really good away record. So again, I think it remains to be said whether we beat Granada or not, but you would hope so. But if we go on to the semi-finals, if we get knocked out in the semi-finals, say to Ajax, I think that in terms of the standard of opposition has been much more difficult this season, having faced Milan already, which is a big team, and arguably Milan are a more difficult side than anybody that we faced last season in the Europa League. So I think we are showing signs of progression in the Europa League. So overall, in terms of our cup competitions, we faced much more difficult opposition this season. And last season, we seemed to be scraping through. So I think, although in terms of progression, we got to 3 semi-finals so far, we've got to 1 semi-final, 1 quarter-final, and another one that's ongoing. I think the standard of opposition has been very unfortunate this season compared with last season. So I think, actually, we are putting in better performances in the cup competitions this season with the teams that we've beaten. Liverpool, West Ham, Everton, Milan. Very good teams. Sociedad were top of La Liga when we drew them. So I honestly think we are making progression in the cup competitions as well this season. Okay, so I've had to get a little bit smaller for this one because there are lots of results on the screen. So Ole Gunnar Solskjær has had this season the finger pointed at him that he has not got results against the top 6, and instead all of the games have been lethargic, boring, and just there's been a lot of draws. So I've compared the top 6 results of last season to the top 6 results of this season. And now I don't want a massive debate about what is and what isn't the top 6. So I've gone with the traditional top 6 results and the actual top 6 results. So the actual top 6 of last season, so the final standings, and the current top 6 for this season as well. So you can see there is a lot more green on the left hand side. So last season we have got some did have a lot more wins against the traditional top 6 and the actual top 6 in the left hand side, and we had a good performances against them. This season you can see there's a lot more white, there's a lot more 0-0s as well. But let's see if we do an average of how it compared to last season. So last season against the traditional top 6, we obviously played all of our games, so 14. We won 50%, which is big against the top 6. We drew 21%. We lost 29%. We scored an average of 1.43 goals per game, and we conceded an average of 1.14 goals per game. This season, by comparison, we've only played 10 games. We've won 20%, so 30%, that is big. We've drew a lot more. We've drew as many as we won last season. We've lost 30% of those games as well. So an increase in losses, an increase in draws, and a massive decrease in the win percentage. We're only scoring 0.6 goals per game, and we're conceding 1.1. So we are conceding a little less, Obviously, this season we have that Spurs result as well. That's 6-1, which kind of hampers the stats quite a lot. But that does get dwindled down a little bit when you take an average of 10 games. So much so that even with that 6-1 result, our goals against per game are still less than last season. So then looking at the actual top six. So last season, the actual and the traditional top six did not really differ all that much. It was only Leicester in for Arsenal. Again, obviously, with all the games complete, 14 games, we actually had a win percentage of 64%, which is huge. Only 14% draws, and the losses were only 21%. The goals scored against per game was 1.5, so we increased a little bit from the traditional top six, but the goals against per game decreased to less than 1, 0.93. Compare that with the current top six this season. We've played 11 games because obviously we played some in the cup. We've won 36% of the games, which is a better than the traditional top six, but still not as good as last season. We've drew 36%, so we've drew less games than the traditional top six, and we've lost less as well, so 27%. And that gives us we've scored 1 goal per game on average, and goals against per game 1.27. So we've increased in the amount of goals against scored per game. So looking at the current top six for this season, which obviously includes West Ham instead of Arsenal, which we've beaten 3 times, which obviously improves the stats. It's not that bad. Obviously, it's a decrease on last season with what we had an excellent record, but it's not too bad when you can compare the current top six. The traditional top six is pretty woeful, 50% with a win rate of only 20%. That is pretty shocking. But 36%, you get into the territory that and only losing 30%. I mean, you'd want an increase on that, but it's not too bad. The current top six is definitely looking a lot better than the traditional top six. So what can be levelled at Ollie? That we're a lot worse against the top six than we were last season. That is fair criticism. We have been a lot worse last season than this season. Although we've got more projected points, we've had better points per game. Against the top six, we have been a lot worse this season, both against the traditional top six and the current top six from last season. So if I was to give an overall assessment of whether we've improved under or not under Ollie, well, we've improved in terms of our points per game as a whole of the Premier League, with 1.97 compared to last season of 1.74. In fact, the points per game is the best season under Ole, but not as good as Jose's second season. So in terms of the Premier League comparisons, yes, I think Ole has improved if you're comparing it to himself, but are you comparing it between Jose Mourinho's best season? For me, you've got to compare it since he came into the job. So in my eyes, he has improved in that area. In terms of the cup competitions, we got to all the semi-finals last season. This season, we've got to a semi-final, a quarter-final, and one is ongoing. However, last season we had a lucky draw, or this season we've had an especially difficult draws all throughout in every competition, really. And we're still in a competition, so it remains to be seen whether we've progressed in terms of the stage of the tournaments in which we progressed to. However, we have beaten more difficult opposition to get to where we are in the cup stages so far this season. And against the top six, we've had a lot less of our win percentage against the top six this season. Against the actual top six last season, we had a 64% win percentage, which is huge. And against the traditional top six, we have a 50% win percentage, which is still big. This season, against the actual top six, we've had a 36 win percent, and against the traditional, we've had a 20%, which is pretty terrible, to be honest. So against the top six, yes, we have not improved whatsoever. In fact, we're going backwards. But if you take the Premier League season as a whole, then we have improved. If you take it, against something that may be slightly concerning is against the top six and the cup competitions. Although we've shown good progress in terms of the opposition that we've beaten, it remains to be seen whether we can actually progress in terms of stage of the competition. So that is my overall assessment of this. I know it's not a definitive yes we have or no we haven't, but hopefully this gives you a few more talking points, some few more stats that you can bring up on this debate. So thank you all for watching. I really appreciate if you've gotten to the end of this video. I'm going to be releasing lots more videos like this, so please hit that subscribe button. I'm also live on Twitch. I do live watch-alongs on Twitch at twitch.tv/RNA_deck. The link for that will be down in the description below. So apart from that, if you've liked the video, please show me that you've liked it by hitting that like button down below. And I will see you next time.